Hello everyone, I'm Rosemary Thomson, Music Director and Conductor of your Okanagan Symphony Orchestra. It's my pleasure to tell you a little bit about our upcoming live stream, Suites and Serenades. This concert will feature just the string section of the Okanagan Symphony Orchestra, and we're so thrilled to be able to dig into some of this repertoire which we normally wouldn't explore in a regular concert season. Silver Linings. We open the concert with Gustav Holst's St. Paul's Suite. Of course, Gustav Holst is probably most well known for The Planets, that is this huge gargantuan piece for orchestra. But this is Holst at a completely opposite end of the spectrum. He struggled quite a lot in his younger years and middle years, being recognized as a composer, and so he had a number of other jobs that he did, and one of them was a teacher. And one of the first jobs that he did as a teacher was at the St. Paul's School for Girls, I think in Hammersmith, England. And so he did a lot of writing for the music students, not unlike Vivaldi in the orphanage that he worked at in Italy a couple of hundred years before. So this piece was the first one that he wrote, and that's where it gets its name, the St. Paul's Suite from the school. It is a very light-hearted piece, it's a great opener, and Holst makes use of a lot of the British folk music that he would have been very familiar with. It has 4 short movements. The first is a jig, doesn't need a lot of explanation. The second is called ostinato, and that really means a musical pattern that repeats. And the second violins are the ones that have this ostinato, and they kind of are relentless with it until the first violins finally break them down just before the end. So it has a lot of quirky humor in it. The third movement is an intermezzo, and it has a beautiful showcase of the violas. And actually, Holst really understood how to give melody throughout the string section, not just to the first violins. The final movement is a wonderful juxtaposition of 2 well-known tunes. The first is a dance, it's really kind of a fiddle folk tune, and the second is Greensleeves. And where the magic happens is when Holst overlaps the 2 together and creates this beautiful texture, and it just swirls around the different string sections. I love this piece, and I hope that you will enjoy it as well. Next on the program is a feature by Jocelyn Morlock. Jocelyn has composed for the symphony. We've actually commissioned her on an occasion, and we've played quite a lot of her music. She was the resident composer for the Vancouver Symphony for about 5 years, and her voice is really celebrated across Canada and around the world. She's actually become quite a prolific composer, and her music is played a lot. And part of that reason is because it really resonates with her listeners. This piece is called Solace, and it does feature just the string section. Jocelyn writes this piece in 3 distinctive textures. The majority of the string section is playing music that was inspired by a mass, and so it's very gentle and quite sustained. And then overlapping this music is some of the violins who play, she calls them the enharmonic violins. And so they are lightly touching their string and creating this harmonic quality, which is when you don't put the full string down onto the fingerboard, and so the quality of sound is actually quite ghostly. And it creates a sort of eerie effect, but a mysterious effect, I think would be a better word. Over top of all of these 2 different textures, she has a glorious violin solo, and our own concertmaster Rachel Christensen, who is back from her maternity leave, will be just beautiful in this solo. And it's supported with a cello solo as well, which will be performed by Olivia Walsh. Jocelyn's music is inspired by nature, by birds, by other people's music. She talks about that as well, but she's also a very deep thinker. She says sometimes her music is inspired by nocturnal wandering thoughts, and she also considers the end of life and death and the aspects that might happen just before and just after. So she's a very thoughtful composer. I always find that her music really speaks directly to my heart, and she does talk about the violin solo as representing the height and the whimsy and the meandering quality of a bird, either in flight or in song, and the cello, which really explores the low part of the instrument as really representing the yearning of the heart. She does talk about this piece as being a piece that could bring comfort after hardship. And so we hope that as we hit a year into this COVID isolation, that this piece will bring you all comfort. I know it will bring us comfort to play. Our final work on the program is one of my favorite pieces of all time by Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky, the Russian composer. This is his Serenade for strings, and it's probably one of the most celebrated pieces of music written just for the string orchestra. It's sort of, a serenade is sort of between the string quartet and the symphony in terms of the texture that Tchaikovsky was going for here. And Tchaikovsky is well known for really digging deep, heart-wrenching melodies. Despite the fact that we only have the one family of instruments, he finds an incredible variety of texture and color to explore within the string section, really making use of their whole range. There are 4 movements, so it really is kind of symphonic in its scope. And the first movement has this grand introduction before it moves into a faster allegro. And what's really unique here is that he brings the introduction back at the end of this movement, which was not done a lot in that compositional time period. Even more interesting is that he brings that introduction back at the very end of the 4th movement as well. So it gives this beautiful connection throughout the piece. The second movement is a lovely waltz, and Tchaikovsky wrote a great many waltzes. He was very inspired by other European music at the time, and this has quite a light-hearted quality to it. But what's lovely is that the second violins also get the melody, and sometimes the first violins just spin around the top in this beautiful ornamental descant. The third movement is an elegy, and it starts in a very soft and gentle way. An elegy really is an ode and a song and a deeply heartfelt tribute song. This is where I think Tchaikovsky really explores the many different sonorities in his string writing, and it's a beautiful contrast to the other 2. And then we have the finale, and as you would expect, it has quite a lot of fire in it. He titled it Tema Rosa, so it is the themes of Russia. And Tchaikovsky used a lot of the folk songs of his native land in much of his composed music. Here he contrasts a melancholic Volga song, a boat song, Volga boat song, you'll hear in the first violins, but he also has a folk dance that he absolutely took the tune from this folk music and contrasts the 2 before coming back to that glorious opening introduction. I hope that you'll enjoy our live stream of Suites and Serenades as much as we will enjoy gathering together to play it for you. Thank you.